Deconstruction can be a scary word. The past few years are littered with examples of prominent pastors, musicians, and faith leaders walking away from Christianity, justifying their choices and perspectives by saying they deconstructed their faith.
In this way, deconstruction has become something of a boogeyman in the Christian world. It creeps through the halls of churches looking to undermine the faith of whatever Christian man or woman it can grab onto.
But sometimes Christians talk about deconstruction in a positive light. They see it as a stripping away of the non-essential parts of Christianity and getting back to its roots in Jesus and the gospel. So, which is it? Is it a helpful reset or a destructive boogeyman? Let's talk about it.
To begin, as we alluded to, even pinning down a definition for the word deconstruction can be difficult. The word's origins trace back to a 20th century French philosopher named Jacques Derrida. Derrida was fascinated by the underlying meanings and inconsistencies found in literature, and he argued that the goal of the reader should be to spy those out.
Essentially, deconstruction is the process of tearing apart a text, not to appreciate it more or understand it better, but to find its inconsistencies and reveal any corrupting messages it may be hiding.
There is certainly value to this process, and this helped its popularity take off in the academic world. Yet, academic deconstruction very quickly turned into a convenient way to reject morality. If a text disagrees with you, how you think, or how you live, you can pick it apart, take it out of context, and label its moral claims as oppressive to your quote-unquote true self and personal liberty.
In all fairness, in modern times, it can often feel safer to assume something is off base and wrong, rather than to face the reality that we might be wrong about something, that our beliefs, our perspectives, our opinions may be flawed.
This is where we arrive at the other way to look at deconstruction. If we set aside its philosophical origins, the term deconstruction can simply mean to break something down into separate pieces. If construction is the building of something, it makes sense that deconstruction is almost the opposite. It's worth noting deconstruction is not destruction, even if sometimes the results look similar.
Maybe the easiest way to explain this is with Legos. If you build a Lego set, you have constructed it. And if you want to take it apart, you can deconstruct it. Take it apart piece by piece. Or you can destroy it, drop it on the ground.
From this perspective, deconstruction doesn't have to be a permanent thing. If you're slowly taking apart something, it doesn't mean the thing itself is destroyed. Deconstruction instead can become a way to strip away the weak or rotting parts and replace them with something more strong and solid. In this light, deconstruction can be a healthy part of a faith journey and is one of the most biblically and historically Christian things a believer can do.
What do we mean by this? Let's look at where we see forms of deconstruction in the Bible. In the Old Testament, God sends prophets to correct and challenge his people, to deconstruct some of the beliefs and practices they had picked up and replace them with something more solid. One of the more famous examples of this is in the book of Micah.
In Micah 6, it says, "Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God?"
Essentially, the people of God had resorted to living however they wanted, sinning, perpetrating injustice, and trusting that their system of sacrifices would cover over their failings. Micah had arrived on the scene to deconstruct this broken perspective and remind the rulers of Israel and the people of God what the core of following him truly is.
And Jesus did something similar when he was on the earth. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus challenges the accepted teachings of the day, saying, "You have heard it said, but I say to you," 6 times to frame his points. The scribes and the Pharisees of Jesus' day had lost sight of what truly following God looked like, and Jesus wanted to remind his followers what it really looks like.
Jesus isn't just deconstructing some of the religious ideals of his day. He's also reconstructing them, replacing them with something more true and more holy. We even see him give a new commandment to his disciples: love one another, just as I have loved you.
And this is really the difference between the academic version of deconstruction of Jacques Derrida and a healthier, more Christ-like version. One version seeks to tear down and destroy, and the other version seeks to rebuild and create a stronger, more Christ-filled faith. This is why Kirsten Sanders, writing for Christianity Today, defines deconstruction as the struggle to correct or deepen naive belief.
So when it comes to faith and deconstruction, it's definitely worth taking some time to re-examine what we believe and why we believe it, to really identify the core of our faith, the gospel of Jesus, the words of the Old and New Testaments, and the promises that we see in Scripture. This doesn't make things beyond this bad or evil, but we should be careful not to equate them with the importance of the gospel.
We are not immune to the Jesus who would look his followers in the face and challenge what they believed and why they believed it. Jesus' goal was not to tear down their beliefs or make them leave him. Rather, his goal was for them to arrive at a truer, more complete fellowship with himself.
It also means we don't just accept what our culture tells us either. We can't let the words and ideals of our modern culture lead us away from the life that Jesus wants us to live. This is why reconstruction is just as, if not more important than deconstruction. We must replace the rotting parts of our faith with something strong, truer, and more Christ-honoring.
We'll leave you with the words of the late Tim Keller. Christians in our cultural moment will have to rethink their faith, but at the same time, they must learn to doubt their doubts. They must deconstruct not only their tacit mistaken beliefs and their secondary beliefs that pose as primary, but also, just as importantly, the cultural narratives that are offered as the alternatives to Christian faith. Thanks for watching this 7-minute video. We hope this video can help spark conversation with the teens in your life about faith, doubt, and deconstruction. Here's a couple of questions to help with that. Do you see deconstruction as a positive thing or a negative thing? Why? What would you say are the essential parts of the Christian faith?